Picture two garages. Same suburb, same size, same street value. In the first garage sits a jet ski nobody's ridden since May, a set of golf clubs still wrapped in plastic, 3 bicycles for a family of 2, and boxes labeled "Someday." The owner makes $110,000 a year. They lie awake some nights doing math that never quite adds up. In the second garage, 2 bikes that actually get ridden, a workbench with tools that show wear, and empty floor space. The owner makes $58,000 a year. They sleep fine. Here's the part that should stop you. The second person, earning almost half as much, has 3 times the money sitting in retirement accounts. Not because they're frugal in some grim, joyless way, because they figured out something about the relationship between objects and money that the first person never even thought to question. This isn't a video about willpower or budgeting spreadsheets. It's about a mental shift that changes how you see every single thing you own, and every single thing you're tempted to buy. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's get into it. The purchase price is a lie of omission. Every object you bring into your life has 2 price tags. One is printed on the receipt, the other one is invisible, and it keeps charging you long after the first one is paid. Think about a stationary bike stashed in the corner of a bedroom. That corner isn't free. In most cities, finished square footage runs somewhere between $25 and $45 a year, once you factor in rent or mortgage, taxes, and utilities. A bike and its clearance space might eat up 15 square feet. That's several $100s a year, every year, to house a machine that's become an expensive coat rack. Now think bigger. A camper van sitting in a driveway isn't just a one-time purchase. It needs insurance whether it moves or not. It needs a battery tender, seasonal maintenance, registration renewals, and eventually tires that dry rot from sitting more than they wear from driving. Owners in RV forums often cite yearly upkeep in the range of 8 to 12% of the vehicle's value. Real money spent to maintain something that mostly just occupies space. Then there's the cost nobody puts on a spreadsheet: attention. Every object you own is a tiny, recurring claim on your mental bandwidth. It has to be dusted, insured, remembered, eventually dealt with. Studies on environmental clutter have linked visual disorder in the home to elevated stress hormones and reduced ability to concentrate. Your possessions are quietly taxing your nervous system, and you never see the invoice. And underneath all of it sits the cost that swamps the other 2 combined, what that money could have become instead. $40,000 spent kitting out a home theater is also, simultaneously, $40,000 that didn't get invested and doesn't get to compound for 20 years into something worth $150,000 or more. You didn't just buy speakers and a projector. You bought them at the price of a future version of your own freedom. Add these 3 layers together, and a strange truth emerges. Plenty of things cost more to keep than they ever cost to acquire. The number on the receipt is only the cover charge. The rest of the bill arrives quietly, for as long as the item stays in your life. People who build real wealth on modest incomes tend to grasp this instinctively. They aren't anti-possession out of some ascetic principle. They've simply run the full math, and the full math tells them most things don't clear the bar. Principle 1. Price it per use, not per purchase. Before you buy something, force yourself to guess honestly how many times you'll actually use it, then divide the price by that number. That single number, cost per use, is closer to the truth than the sticker price will ever be. A $150 pair of boots worn twice is a $75 per wear disaster. A $350 pair worn 300 times is barely over $1 a wear, and it's the expensive one. Run this filter and most impulse buys collapse instantly. That $180 air fryer with a fancy name that you'll use 4 times this year? That's $45 a use for something a regular oven already does. Meanwhile, a $25 cast iron pan used 3 times a week for a decade rounds down to pennies per use. But the formula cuts both ways. It also rescues purchases that look expensive on the surface. A $1,800 mattress slept on nightly for 12 years works out to about 40 cents a night for something that touches your health every single day. A $900 blender used for a daily smoothie for 6 years is under 50 cents a use. Cost per use strips out the emotion, the marketing, and the social comparison, and leaves you with arithmetic you can actually trust. Principle 2. Run the would I rebuy test on what you already have. Go room by room and ask one blunt question about everything you see. If this vanished tonight, would I go spend money tomorrow to get it back? Be honest with yourself. Would you rebuy the juicer? The extra set of dishes for parties you stopped hosting? The jeans from a size you haven't been in 3 years? For the overwhelming majority of items, the honest answer is no. These things aren't in your home because you chose them today. They're there because nobody's made the decision to remove them. Leftover gifts, old identities, purchases made on a whim that never got walked back. Items that fail this test aren't neutral. They have a negative value. They're quietly costing you closet space, cleaning time, and mental clutter while giving nothing back. Every minute spent organizing around things you wouldn't buy again is a minute stolen from something that would actually move your life forward. People who take this seriously go through their homes without sentimentality. They sell what has resale value, give away what someone else could use, and toss what serves no one. It's uncomfortable in the moment, and freeing almost immediately after. Rooms open up. Cleaning gets faster. You stop hunting for things because everything left has an actual job. Principle 3. Don't replace what isn't broken. There's a trap that catches high earners more than anyone, replacing things that still work purely because something newer exists. The couch is fine, but it's dated. The car runs perfectly, but this year's trim has a nicer dashboard. The laptop does everything you need, but a slimmer model just launched. This isn't upgrading. It's wealth quietly leaking out through a habit, dressed up as taste. The rule that protects against it is simple. Something gets replaced when it stops doing its job, not when boredom or a new release convinces you it should. Do the lifetime math on this one habit alone. Swap a functioning phone every 2 years instead of every 5, and over 3 decades you've handed over tens of thousands of dollars for marginal camera improvements you'll forget by next model year. Apply that same premature replacement pattern across electronics, vehicles, and furniture, and the lifetime bill for chasing newer easily runs into 6 figures. Genuine failure, the thing stops functioning, earns a replacement. Restlessness does not. Principle 4. Make saving the default and spending the effort. People don't act on willpower nearly as much as they think. They act on whatever requires the least friction in the moment. If spending money takes one tap and saving requires several deliberate steps, spending wins by default. Flip that arrangement and saving wins instead. Building spending friction looks like removing saved cards from shopping apps, deleting the apps outright, unsubscribing from every promotional list clogging your inbox, and imposing a mandatory 24-hour pause on anything that isn't a planned purchase. Building saving ease looks like automatic transfers the day your paycheck lands, treating your investment contribution as a bill that gets paid before anything else, and keeping only a thin operating balance in the account you actually see day to day. This works because it doesn't depend on your mood. Willpower is a battery that drains by evening. A system doesn't get tired. Someone with no saved card on file and no shopping app on their phone literally cannot buy something on impulse at 11 p.m. after a rough day. The environment has already made the decision for them. And that 24-hour pause alone tends to dissolve most impulse urges. The craving that feels urgent tonight is usually gone by tomorrow morning. Principle 5. Count what you own. This sounds almost silly until you actually try it. Pick one category, coffee mugs, t-shirts, phone chargers, whatever, and count every single one you own. Write the number down. Most people underestimate wildly and are stunned by the real total. The count itself changes behavior going forward. Once you know you own 31 t-shirts, buying a 32nd one feels different. You're not adding an item, you're inflating a pile you already knew was too big. People who take this seriously set hard ceilings per category, sometimes running a one-in, one-out rule where nothing new arrives without something old leaving first. Limits like that stop the slow, invisible creep that fills every available inch of storage over time. Principle 6. Borrow before you buy. Most new hobbies get an intense burst of enthusiasm, followed by a long, quiet fade. The gear bought in week 1 often sits untouched by month 6. The smarter move is renting or borrowing first and buying only once the interest has proven itself real. Thinking about getting into rock climbing? Rent the shoes and harness for the first several sessions. Curious about pottery? Take a class that includes studio access before buying a wheel and a kiln. This approach does 2 things at once. It tells you honestly whether the excitement will last, and it teaches you exactly what gear you actually need instead of guessing and overbuying on day 1. Garages everywhere are quiet museums of abandoned enthusiasm. Snowboards from one trip, guitars from one summer, sewing machines from one Pinterest phase. Testing first is how you avoid adding to that collection. Principle 7. Watch for the chain reaction. Almost nothing you buy stays a single purchase. A single big item tends to drag a whole supporting cast of smaller purchases behind it. That's the multiplier effect, and it's usually invisible until you add it up. A pool doesn't just cost the pool. It costs chemicals, a cover, furniture, a cleaning robot, and often a fence to meet code. A dirt bike doesn't just cost the bike. It costs a trailer, a truck capable of towing it, riding gear, and storage. What looked like a $4,000 decision quietly becomes a $7,000 or $9,000 one once every downstream expense is counted. Running that full ecosystem math before committing turns a lot of reasonable purchases into obviously excessive ones. And it works in reverse too. Sell the boat, and you don't just get back the boat's value. You also shed the insurance, the slip fees, and the maintenance calls that came bundled with it. Principle 8. Decide what enough means before the raises start. Here's the trap that swallows high earners specifically. They never define a finish line, so every raise gets absorbed into a slightly bigger lifestyle, which then requires the next raise just to feel normal again. Someone pulling in $250,000 can feel just as squeezed as someone making $70,000, because their spending expanded in lockstep with their income the entire way up. The fix is deciding, in advance, what enough actually looks like, before the money that would tempt you to redefine it even arrives. Enough house, enough car, enough wardrobe. Write the number down while you're still clear-headed about it. Someone who locks in a $70,000 lifestyle and then grows their income to $180,000 is suddenly investing well over half of everything they make. Someone earning the same $180,000 with no defined ceiling might be banking almost nothing, because the ceiling keeps quietly moving upward with every promotion. Principle 9. Wealth is what you can walk away from. Most people measure wealth by what fills their driveway and their closets. A better measure is what you're free to do because of the gap between what you earn and what you spend. Can you leave a job that's grinding you down without a backup income lined up? Can you take 2 months off to care for a parent? Can you say no to a project that pays well but violates something you care about? These options only exist for people who've built real distance between income and expenses. Someone earning $220,000 and spending $210,000 of it has almost no room to maneuver. Every dollar is already spoken for. Someone earning $65,000 and spending $38,000 has enormous room, even though their number on paper looks smaller. That gap is where actual freedom lives, and it's built with liquid savings, not garage contents. Principle 10. Small and constant beats big and occasional. Most people who try to declutter do one massive purge, feel great for a month, and then slowly refill the space they cleared, ending up right back where they started within a year or two. The purge feels like progress. The slow refill happens so gradually, nobody notices it happening. The better approach is small and continuous. A quick weekly glance at what came into the house, a monthly pass through one category, a quarterly step back to check the overall trend. Removing 2 or 3 things a week is sustainable in a way that removing 200 things once a year never is. This steady rhythm also builds awareness over time. You start noticing which categories creep back the fastest, which moods trigger a shopping spree, and which marketing tricks reliably work on you personally. That awareness lets you prevent the buildup, instead of just cleaning it up after the fact. Where to start this week? Walk your home tonight and find 10 items that fail the would I rebuy test. Sell them, give them away, or throw them out, and notice how the room feels different afterward. This month, put the 24-hour rule on anything that isn't a planned necessity, and watch how many of those urges quietly disappear before the day is up. This quarter, count something: clothes, kitchen gear, whatever tends to multiply in your home, and set yourself an honest ceiling based on what you actually use. And somewhere in there, write down what enough means for you across the categories that matter most: housing, transportation, wardrobe, hobbies. That definition becomes the finish line that keeps your spending from quietly chasing your income upward forever. None of this is about deprivation. The goal was never to own nothing. It's to stop paying, in money and attention, for things that have stopped earning their place. Do this consistently for a few years, and the gap between what you make and what you keep starts to compound into something that looks a lot like freedom. That garage with the empty floor space and the 2 well-used bikes, it didn't come from a bigger paycheck. It came from someone who got honest about what things actually cost to keep, not just to buy, and decided most of it wasn't worth the price.